Hello, investors. Welcome, Joseph Areu. My name's you remember me, and here to talk to you, as always, about matters passive investing. My friends, I want to share with you in this video and in the next couple of videos my own investing experiences over the last few weeks, or if you like, months. So you get to know what I've been doing, and hopefully you get to learn from my experiences. To start off, I'm going to share with you a sale transaction that I was engaged in, and that was a sale of property or a sale of real estate, an apartment to be specific. So by now you probably know I live in Uganda, but I have investments such as real estate, stocks, and things like that in several countries around. One of them is South Africa, and that is where I had the apartment, and that's where I sold my apartment in the last couple of months. So I want to let you know, assuming you have a piece of property already, especially for those of you who are in the diaspora, what are some of the things that you want to be careful about, or you want to make sure are in place when time comes for you to sell that piece of property? Remember, the real return from property, and I told you this some time back, comes from sale. It comes when you're selling. It's not so much the little rentals that you get. So this is a very important transaction. So I sold a piece of property in South Africa, in Johannesburg, and the entire transaction went on or was implemented without me setting foot in South Africa even once, which I thought was good. And that is the kind of experience you want to be having. Now, how did this happen? What were some of the key things that made this possible? So one is essentially making sure that you have good, reliable service providers to support you. I cannot, it sounds obvious now when I talk about it, but I cannot overemphasize that, because in many of our countries, unfortunately, or in some of our countries, that may not be something you take for granted. So when I talk about service providers, I'm talking about brokers who do uh, the sale process, advertising the property, and that kind of thing for you. I am talking about conveyancing attorneys or conveyancing lawyers. So, who are conveyancing lawyers? Well, these are lawyers who specialize in the legal aspects of a real estate transaction. So, those legal aspects could be in the purchase, acquisition of the property, but also in the sale of the property. They will handle issues like dealing with the banks, the bank which would have given you a mortgage, for example, coordinating all those issues, the paperwork, the legal paperwork. That is a critical service provider you want to make sure is in place, whichever country you're selling that property. So please don't be satisfied with just some word of mouth kind of uh, referral, that, oh, this is a good guy, will do a good job for you. Make sure for these attorneys, as indeed for other service providers, try and make sure that they are registered. Usually in many countries, Certainly in South Africa, you would find registration boards um, which have or maintain a database of qualified professionals, not only qualified, but professionals whose conduct um, has been vetted. And so you can have some comfort. So try and make sure that, for instance, the conveyancing attorneys are registered in one such database. The brokers, the same thing. That's a critical service provider. Do try and make sure that they are registered. So that is one thing, that's one aspect of my sale experience, or when I was selling this property in South Africa. That's the one aspect which I thought came out very strongly and was very critical in making sure that I had a flawless experience selling my property. The conveyancing attorneys, in fact, ideally should be someone who will represent both your interests and the interests of the buyer in a neutral, professional manner. You would want to be comfortable about that. You would want to get some references in that regard. The other thing that you want to make sure, to the extent possible, happens, and again, this may not be so common in many of our countries, is simply having a real estate sector which is well organized in terms of having all these, like I said, service providers in place, the level of governance or level of integrity of those service providers is in place. And like I said earlier, the registration systems of these service providers is in place, so that you can pretty much count on the quality of the providers, and that goes beyond just having a qualified provider. Just because someone has a law degree, therefore calls himself or herself a lawyer, it's not sufficient for you to be able to take that person in trust. So having a real estate sector which is reasonably or sufficiently well organized in the country would become a very important condition or factor for you to have a seamless or comfortable experience selling or even purchasing or acquiring your property. And that is certainly what, at least in the case of South Africa, I experienced. Now, this obviously might be something beyond our control. If a country will either have a well-organized sector or it doesn't, but it behooves you. It's up to you to make sure that you have those structures in place to ensure a comfortable and profitable experience. Do get in touch with me if you want some further discussions on that matter. But this is just to tell you that, yes, you can invest in property, for example, and you can actually conduct, or you can have comfortable property transactions even without you being in that country, provided you have some of those preconditions I talked about in place. Thank you very much, and I look forward to talking to you on other transactions that I have had. Thank you.